Tiny infants, children, the doctor is performing an amputation without anesthesia, without painkiller, with the parents holding both arms. And she says the screams of these babies is something that haunts me.
And we weren't able to actually sedate him to return the bones in place. It was horrific because he screamed and screamed.
There were doctors who had treated some of these babies, and two of them actually broke down while still recounting what had happened 2 years ago when they were treating these children.
It was a systematic campaign of devastation, of destruction, targeting the most vulnerable.
One of the most horrific incidents is this baby breastfeeding.
So how precise can it be that a breastfeeding baby's skull is targeted and the mother is unharmed?
What were some of the striking incidents to you?
Baby is brought in with people screaming brain matter out, which means the skull is open and you can actually see in the brain matter. Children being asked to strip down, photograph themselves with children's toys. The Israeli soldier was filmed showing girls' clothes to a group of soldiers and joking, "Look at the outfit, it suits him." In one video, an Israeli soldier in uniform and helmet can be seen proudly brandishing a child's trophy in a show of strength, claiming, "Poor thing, he got a trophy, you lost the trophy. We won, not you, we." He's talking to the child.
Some of the testimonies are Israeli soldiers themselves.
Israeli soldiers have given us so much incriminating material and they've not been able to deny it. Nissim Vaturi, he is the deputy speaker of the Knesset. He posts this message on social media: "Erase Gaza. Nothing else will satisfy us. Gaza is full of terrorists and every child born there is already a terrorist from the moment of his birth." Israel is violating each of these orders with complete impunity. And the world community is keeping quiet about it.
Some justice when it comes to even Netanyahu, that they'll be tried.
This report we presented to the European Union, where several countries' ambassadors sat around and...
Before we get into the full interview, a quick public service announcement. Everything we do at News Laundry is completely ad-free. Conversations like the one that you're about to see are possible because our subscribers choose to support independent journalism. So if you think this kind of work deserves to exist, please do consider subscribing. Pay to keep news free.
Welcome to News Laundry Interviews. Today we have with us former Chief Justice of Orissa High Court, currently in the news for chairing UN Commission on Violations Against Palestinian Children by Israeli Soldiers, S. Muralidhar. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I know you've done a series of interviews.
That's right.
You've been talking about this because it is actually very important. And my first question to you is actually on the naming of the report. The report is More Than a Human Can Bear, Israel's Systemic Use of Child-Targeted Violence as Genocide, Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes. And what struck me was the title that the commission has given, which says More Than a Human Can Bear. And it seems that with all the evidence that you worked on, and you joined this about 9 months?
November 2025.
It seeks to say something more than just the legality of what we'll get into.
Correct.
So tell us a bit about how this title came about, but also like what it made you feel by the end of the whole process, seeing the evidence that you saw.
Yeah, actually the depravity of human behavior is something that struck most of us engaging with the preparation of the report, because you do have serious crimes committed during times of hostilities and crimes against women, children. We've heard all of this even before, whether it's Rwanda or now it's happening in Sudan. But for an uniformed armed force to be actually taking pride in doing this, soldiers filming themselves, putting that on social media, saying how they got complimented by their commanders. We thought this was a different level. And it seemed to be so specifically targeted against children and completely unarmed, defenseless, children not involved in hostilities, children playing outside their houses, children just walking along, children actually running to get food, which is just being flung there for people to just go grab. And in these kind of situations, to actually target, to kill children, it was something that was, of a different level of atrocity than what one had encountered earlier. Even for the team that was preparing the groundwork, doing the actual, analysis of the evidence, this was an emotional drain. It was emotionally very challenging for them.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you joined the commission in September 2025 and you would have entered...
November 2025.
November 2025. And you would have entered with quite a bit of knowledge on what's happening here because this has been the most sort of publicized conflict of our times and we've been seeing images over the last 3 years. So you would have gone in with certain notions and understanding of, what's happening here.
Yeah.
Did you find that changed by the end of the report?
No, I didn't.
Or did you find it challenged by the...
As a student of law, I must say, in international human rights law, because I have dealt with human rights cases, I've been part of work concerning international law, human rights law. I didn't know that we could find categories of offences so neatly discernible. You have a crime of genocide. One of the elements of genocide is targeting of children, forcible transfers of children, and preventing births of children. Now, you normally don't come across such clear, stark instances which fit these definitional categories. Then there's something called crimes against humanity. There's something called war crimes. Now, in each of these categories, you have cases all laid out. It's like it's almost like for a student of international law, they'll be amazed to see the crimes committed fit all these categories. So for me, to see this international law actually play out and see how you can identify perpetrators, command responsibilities, another principle that we discuss in international law. Here we were able to name the commands, the brigades, the divisions in para 356 of Israeli soldiers who are involved in particular crimes. So this is an eye-opener in terms of, if your investigation is thorough, how you can actually name the perpetrators. We've not actually given the individual names of the individual soldiers, but those are available with us. Those details are available with us. So thoroughness of investigation, making it easier for further mechanisms to take this up, that was an eye-opener for me. What is professional work? And I must add here, for me, it was a complete exposure to the investigative part. See, I've been a judge for 17 and a half years. I was a lawyer before that for 20 years and now come back to the bar. We look at materials in a certain way. They are never part of an investigative process. Whereas this is an investigating body.
Yes.
We are not a judicial body. This commission is an investigating commission. Body. So we have to actually look at materials in their raw form and discern from it, how the evidence is gathered for proving a particular, incident. And when discussing with the team, one is a cybercrime expert, one is a military analyst. This person actually looks at, rifles, weapons, munitions, strategy during war. One is a gender expert, one is a child rights expert. So when you sit and discuss with them, you can see how professionally they do it. We've explained in paras 8 and 10 how we gathered several sources of evidence. So there is one incident where we say 2 boys who were picking up firewood for their house, they got shot at.
So they were outside their house?
Yeah. Suppose, let's say their father has given a testimony to us. Normally, in a court of law, we should say this is more than enough. This is an eyewitness account. But these people don't stop at that. They say, because we are not on the ground there. Israel doesn't allow us to enter those territories.
Yes.
Since this is a remotely recorded testimony, they want to substantiate it by so they use the geolocational analysis, satellite imagery. They use metadata extraction. They want to make sure no video sent to them, no audio clip sent to them is morphed, fake. So they pick multiple sources. And only a sampling of cases have been set out in the report. There are more than 170 cases they've documented. But they've discussed only about 12 or 15 of them. Because on this, they have absolutely clear, evidence that this incident did happen and the way they've described it. So this thoroughness of investigation is something that impressed me immensely.
So 2 things that strike me. One is the meticulousness with which you can actually define what's happening and those definitions exist and experts can actually put everything in those definitions to call it a genocide. So there is clarity among experts that what's unfolding is genocide. Yeah.
Having said that, I must also say, since we are an investigating body, at this stage we are not looking for a standard of proof that a court might require. To give an example, in a criminal case, you're looking for proof beyond reasonable doubt. When you are saying this is the person who did the crime, the principles require you to eliminate any other possibility, that no other person did the crime except this person. Now, that is not the standard we are required to adopt for an investigating report. This is reasonable. We have a reasonable basis for coming to this conclusion. So this distinction also I want to bring about, because if this can be the starting point for further investigations and further prosecution and trial, they may find more things, but they could use this as a starting point. A rough analogy would be the police conducts an investigation, presents a charge sheet, right? Then a court looks at the charge sheet and says, what are the charges that can be made out from this kind of evidence? So whether this evidence that we have can further be investigated, and whether that can result in a court saying, okay, this constitutes crimes against humanity, this constitutes war crime, this constitutes genocide, that court can take either a view consistent with what we have said or differ from this. It's possible. But
So this is a charge sheet in one sense.
in one sense. So, but it's a good starting point. And usually this thoroughness is not brought at the stage of, preparing even a report of investigation. But this is of a different level.
So what are the primary sources that you used to make your case?
Multiple sources. So like I told you, testimonies, first-hand eyewitness testimonies, victims themselves, witnesses people who've actually witnessed the occurrence, first-hand accounts. Some of them are able to come outside those territories because they've been brought out for medical emergency, or they've been managed to escape to the other countries. Then we have remote interviews with children who are affected.
Wow.
And we maintain the protocols of do no harm, child's interests is, because a child can get re-traumatized in asking to recount what happened. Because some of these are very humiliating, what the child has undergone. There's been a public shaming of children being asked to strip down to their briefs, that being photographed, uploaded by Israeli soldiers on the web. So narrating these things would be difficult for children. But we observe those protocols. Then we have doctors who've treated, right? So they've given us first-hand accounts. Then we have media persons. Then we have lawyers who've represented.
In fact, one of the fascinating things is that a lot of, some of the testimonies are Israeli soldiers themselves.
Exactly. I was just going to come to that. So people often ask, how come the other side is not represented at all? What about their point of view? I say in this report, fortunately for us, the Israeli soldiers have given us so much incriminating material, and they've not been able to deny it. See, these days when you present someone with a video where there's admission of culpability, that person says, no, this is taken out of context. This is not what I said. No such denial. And some of them have spoken to Israeli media channels, television channels in Israel. And those footages are available with us. We've quoted them here. No denial. So for viewers, you should know that Israel never responds to the requests of this commission for participating in its deliberations. So every time a report is first sought to be prepared, we pick up a theme. We actually have two kinds of reports. One are called mandated reports, which we submit twice a year, once to the Human Rights Council, usually in June, and the other to the UN General Assembly in October. Then there are what are called the more detailed reports like this one, which is called for sake of UN jargon as conference room paper. But actually it's a very thorough report which has no word limit. The other two mandated reports can't exceed 9,800 words because it has to be translated and presented in 5 languages and all of that. So in this we do a very exhaustive, in-depth analysis. We look at the underlying causes and we trace the chronology of events. Like even in this report, in the end, you will find literally a chronology of events dating back to the 90s. So this report, therefore, is presented to the member states, and we hold press conferences too. But the starting point is a call for submissions, where anyone from anywhere in the world can give us material. Then, of course, we write to the, I issue what is called a note verbal to the permanent mission for Israel in the UN.
Okay.
My predecessor did it, I do it. I've done it already 3-4 times. No response. They just don't want to engage with any UN mandated body. And they have a deep distrust. Israel has a deep distrust of the UN. Nevertheless, even when this report was prepared in its draft form, about 2 weeks before we finalized the report, we sent the draft report to both Israel and to the Palestinian Authority for their comments. And again, complete silence. And then Israel has specific instructions to its citizens not to engage with the commission. Israel doesn't permit us to visit those territories. So in various ways, Israel tries to frustrate the working of this commission. Despite all of that, after the report was finalized and put in the public domain, Israel prepared an 18-page rebuttal, circulated it to all the missions and not to us.
Okay.
And we nevertheless studied that whole 18-page rebuttal. So 2 or 3 main points. One, they say all your evidence has come from Hamas or Hamas-affiliated organizations. To make sure we never spoke to either Hamas or Hamas-affiliated organizations. We are very clear because we have a kind of an unwritten rule that this might be a very subjective viewpoint which may not be fair or neutral, and Hamas itself is a subject matter of our report. We prepared a very detailed report on the 7th October incident, which many people are not aware of. When 7th October 2023 happened, this commission brought out one of the earliest reports of investigation detailing the atrocities of Hamas against Israeli hostages. Just on 15th June this year, we submitted a separate report to the Human Rights Council on non-state actors, by which we mean Hamas and its affiliated bodies as far as Gaza is concerned, and the Israeli settlers in West Bank. Hamas and its affiliated bodies are creating havoc in Gaza. They are, subjecting Palestinians to extreme forms of punishment for small, infractions of theft and, causing a fracas or injury, or accusing Palestinians of collaborating with Israel. And all of this is again put on social media and on the web. Children are made to witness it. So we've detailed all of this in the report that we released on 15 June. So one of the criticisms Israel has against this report on children is that we're completely silent on Hamas. Since we gave a report just a week ago, we thought there's no need to repeat all of that here. So what people have to do generally to understand the work of the commission is to study all its reports in continuum. There's a report on sexual and gender-based violence given in March 2025. There's a report on genocide given in September 2025. Then there's a report on non-state actors and the present report on children. If you read all of this together, a pattern emerges. You get to know who the main actors are. You get to know what all is happening there. There's much more to be said and done, and we're doing it step by step. But to say that this report is therefore, not credible, it is biased because it is silent on Hamas's atrocities is not quite true.
And plus it has enough voices from the Israelis. Like you said, it is the Israeli soldiers,
this
uniformed soldiers.
Yeah, this was a chance for Israel to tell us in its 18-page rebuttal that this video by this soldier is a fake one. Our deputy speaker of the Knesset never said this. The Israeli far-right politicians are on the social media and on the net. You can find all their statements. And they're extreme statements. Like, let me just read out, because I've read this earlier, but I think people should know where this thinking comes from. How is it that they're able to, put up with this level of depraved behavior of their soldiers? And why do they target children? So this is Nissim Vaturi. He's the deputy speaker of the Knesset. And 7th October 2023, the horrific incident happens where Hamas goes and takes Israelis hostages. On 9th October 2023, he posts this message on social media, and I'm quoting, "Erase Gaza. Nothing else will satisfy us. It is not acceptable that we maintain a terrorist authority next to Israel. Do not leave a child there. Expel all the remaining ones at the end so that they will not have a resurrection." And then on 30th January 2025, he again says, "Gaza is full of terrorists, and every child born there is already a terrorist from the moment of his birth." So this explains why they are targeting children.
And it explains why they're saying that all your evidence is from Hamas, because you're viewing everyone there as a terrorist organization or as Hamas operatives.
Correct.
So even a 6-year-old, even with baby breastfeeding, one of the most horrific incidents is this baby breastfeeding child that's shot by a quadcopter.
Correct.
So I just want you to, for our viewers who will not go through the report, we spoke about human depravity and depravity by uniformed soldiers.
Yes.
What were some of the striking incidents to you?
Yeah.
Which you felt like, okay, this is what really seals the case
There is a
against...
section 6 of the report where we discuss this depraved behavior of the soldiers. And there we talk about how when they enter an apartment, which is already bombed and the families have vacated hurriedly, these soldiers actually photograph themselves with children's toys. A teddy bear is hung from the tank and a gun is pointed at it, or it is hung by the neck from the ceiling fan. And look at the depravity. The commission found Israeli soldiers used girls' clothes by wearing them. In a video dated October 2024, an Israeli soldier was filmed showing girls' clothes to a group of soldiers and joking, "Look at the outfit, it suits him. The pink one looks better on you. I think the pink one will make you look slimmer." And the soldier named Adiel proceeds to try on one of the outfits. Now, we wouldn't have known this if these soldiers had not been filming themselves doing all of this and then uploading it on social media. So there's a level of depravity which is, unprecedented, I would say. I have not come across an uniformed, armed force.
Yeah, the big difference is Hamas is a non-state actor.
Yeah. So
there's a expectation from an army, a professional army.
And say in one video, an Israeli soldier in uniform and helmet can be seen proudly brandishing a child's trophy in a show of strength, claiming, "Poor thing, he got a trophy, you lost the trophy. We won, not you, we." He's talking to the child. So there is something in the mindset which wants to make them do this and to specifically target children, humiliate them. And this is actually deep psychological trauma for a child.
Yeah.
Once you know a drone is around you, the drone is targeting only the child.
So what was the evidence of this?
There are instances, there are instances like this breastfeeding baby, the mother was not hurt. Only the baby is hurt. So how precise can it be that a breastfeeding baby's skull is targeted and the mother is unharmed?
I didn't know the mother
was... parent is holding the child is shot dead while the parent is holding the child's arm, and the parent is unhurt. So there can be no doubt, and we had oral hearings this time in Geneva. 3 doctors spoke to us. They were doctors who had treated some of these babies, and 2 of them actually broke down while still recounting what had happened 2 years ago when they were treating these children.
The evidence is undeniable. The suffering unconscionable.
Because we're looking at a period between 7th October 2023 and March 2026, specifically till 7th October 2025 when the ceasefire was declared. We've also said how the ceasefire is violated because even after that bombings continued. But the doctors who treated some of these babies told 2 or 3 things which is shocking. One, they found a certain pattern of injuries. Many babies and infants and children brought with bullet shot wounds to their heads and to their necks.
Which is
clearly,
targeted.
For maximum damage you're targeting. Then you have upper torsos, and they showed us photographs where there are bullet holes, and these are small square-shaped pellet holes. These are cube-shaped pellets apparently. When they enter the body, they go and, like a cluster bomb spread and cause enormous damage to the internal organs so that the baby can't survive. So this again, they were astonished to find so many babies brought in this way. Then there are babies brought in with people screaming brain matter out, which means the skull is open and you can actually see in the brain matter. And they are telling the doctor, now don't treat this baby because you cannot save this baby. In an emergency ward, when there are so many children coming in, you have to decide whom to treat. So this doctor actually broke down, and we have those, the public hearing videos on the net. I can share it with you and you can share it with everyone else. You will see her breaking down saying, as a medical professional, I have to decide not to treat someone, not to save someone's life. And that was the most tough thing for me. The second thing they pointed out was a large number of children were being brought in for amputation. So tiny infants, children, the doctor is performing an amputation without anesthesia, without painkillers.
Oh God.
With the parents holding both arms. And she says the screams of these babies is something
And
that
the
haunts
trauma
me.
for the parents.
Absolutely.
And a teenager was brought in with partial, he had basically part of his face and his eye blown off because of shrapnel. And I had him on the ground because there was no cots available, and I was trying to calm him down so I could examine him. And there was nothing that would calm him down. And he was in shock, of course, and kept moving around and touching the damaged area of his face, and just caused more damage because I couldn't get him sedated or give him enough pain medication.
Then a third category, she said, we ourselves devised a category called WCNSF.
Yes.
So we
wounded,
discussed that in the report.
Yeah.
Wounded child, no surviving family. So there are a large category of those children. And she says in a short time, because you see, they use two methods. One is the quadcopters. The other is airstrikes on a continuous basis. You pick up the most densely populated area and you bombard it, relentlessly, knowing that children will constitute quite a sizable, portion of that population, and they will die in larger numbers. So any rights-respecting country which is involved in hostilities, when it realizes that children are dying in disproportionate numbers, would have to change its tactic.
Yeah.
Because children are not your enemies, children are not a threat to your security. But Israel does not do that. In this 2-year period, it persists with the bombing. And if you look at even what's happening now, the airstrikes are continuing, even now children are getting targeted. Even now, and this is the second part of the whole report, medical facilities are targeted. Ambulances are targeted. A large number of doctors have been killed, nurses have been killed. So which means you want to deny medical relief to the Palestinian population, which is going to be injured by a result of the airstrikes. So 5 of the 6 pediatric hospitals have been completely destroyed. And even when they set up temporary facilities, even those are getting destroyed. So some doctors explained, you have a space in some temporary tent-like structure. You're operating without electricity.
And like you said, without anesthesia, if you have to amputate
and without clean
children,
clean water.
clean water.
I mean, so what do you expect doctors to do? And doctors are not allowed to bring in medical equipment, emergency medicines, nothing. There's an active prevention of life-saving equipment and drugs from coming into Gaza. So it's a very, very deliberate thing, and doctors who spoke to us were refused permissions for the second and third time. So this is the other thing they told us, that even if I want to help, I cannot. And the last part of this medical part is this. See, Gaza is that tiny strip on the western coast. And then we have West Bank and East Jerusalem. Between Gaza and West Bank, by road you can reach in about 3-4 hours. The medical facilities in West Bank and East Jerusalem are far better. They have functioning hospitals. Now there are many children, we're talking of thousands, who need to be evacuated for emergency medical relief. Israel will not permit a child to be taken from Gaza to West Bank.
That's just, and 4 hours away to know that the child's life can be
all
saved.
of them are piled up at the Rafah border because systematically they've been asked to be evacuated, and they've been bombed literally out of their houses. So most of the population is now at the southern border, the Rafah border, and they're in displacement camps because there's not a single building standing in Rafah. And evacuation therefore can happen only at the Rafah border. Israel decides how many children can leave in a certain day. And despite this Board of Peace, the Gaza peace plan, nothing actually is being respected by Israel. So if 100 children need to be evacuated, they'll decide that today only 5 will be allowed to leave. So many children are dying for want of medical relief at the Rafah border. And you're not able to document it accurately. People also asked me during interviews, okay, you've cited some figures. These are figures of the Palestinian Authority, sometimes controlled by Hamas. How can you be sure these figures are right? I said, if Israel has contrary figures, let Israel disclose what those figures are.
Yeah.
You don't allow us to enter the territory. You don't speak to us. You don't present any evidence which contradicts our findings. How are we supposed to, relook at all of this?
So, couple of things are very clear from this. One, like in war, we know that collateral damage occurs and then women and children who have nothing to do with war suffer. But here we are talking about active targeting of children. We are beyond that stage of the children are collateral damage, because you're seeing children targeted on skull and neck. And what is astounding, I mean, very chilling to note that parents, for example, if a child is the parent, the child is targeted and killed and the parent is fine. This shows an active intent to kill children,
Absolutely.
which is very, very chilling.
Stark, and very stark.
Yeah.
And then you're also attacking pregnant mothers. So you have malnourished women. One of them gave birth to a child which is 900 grams. So even if a child is born in these circumstances, the child cannot survive.
Yeah.
Because neonatal facilities are destroyed. They enter a hospital which was earlier occupied by the Israeli Defense Force. And I must explain to you, Israel's rationale for attacking all of this is that Hamas is operating from these hospitals.
Yeah, it's a cover.
So we are saying, let's assume that Hamas is using some of those facilities. Do you destroy the entire hospital with all its patients? With patients on beds having IV drips, not evacuating them? With children in that hospital, how do you destroy an entire building? And not one building, 5 hospitals destroyed this way. So one is what we call the principle of proportionality. A disproportionate
Far
use of...
beyond that.
Yeah, far beyond.
Yeah.
And who suffers most? Children.
And again, the point is that if Hamas is the enemy, then like you said, the simplest solution is evacuate the children.
Correct.
Get them to the other...
Or women or anybody who's receiving treatment.
Let them get their treatment and then you have just Hamas there then, which
Exactly.
gives you also a free hand in your war. But clearly that's not happening.
So I'm saying even this evidence, which they say, we have Hamas operating from these places, why can't they present it to us?
Yeah.
I'm saying any evidence they have, we are prepared even today. And I've said that earlier, I'm repeating it. This commission has no, particular interest in not looking at the material that Israel may have. They say, okay, this is evidence which is relevant for the theme of your report. Look at it. We're prepared to do that.
Yeah.
We'll subject that evidence to the same rigorous analysis that we've subjected other evidence to. We have no interest in falsely accusing anyone. The commission members, apart from me, of course, are Justice Florence Mumba, who is a retired Supreme Court judge from Zambia. And then we have Chris Sidoti, who's been a human rights lawyer and has been part of the UN mechanisms for more than 2 decades now. There is nothing to be gained by any of us to falsely accuse an Israeli soldier or a commander or the state of Israel. So if there is any evidence they have which they think contradicts our findings, they are free to present it not only to us, to the world, and we can take a look at it. I was asked another question. How do you know that Israel itself has not investigated these incidents? Because to me it seems that even if, let's say, the Indian Armed Force misbehaved with children or women in a particular territory in which we were engaged in hostilities, I'm sure the Indian army would start inquiry.
Yes.
Disciplinary proceedings against such errant soldiers. We would say these are rogue soldiers. This is not what the Indian army stands for. Likewise, the Israeli army, if it was serious about the ethics and the discipline to be followed by its armed forces, would start inquiry against soldiers trying on girls' clothes, filming themselves and all that. No information at all whether any such investigation has been carried out. What is the result of such investigation? Even now, Israel can tell us, has it taken any action against these soldiers? Because these soldiers tell us through their videos that one of them got, a commendation from his commander. One other was hesitating and he was told by his commander, forget about the age of your target, go ahead and kill. So this is all there in television interviews and videos. And one documentary we've referred to. So Israel can come out and say, what has it done vis-a-vis these soldiers? How does it condone this behavior of its soldiers?
One of the things I wanted to elaborate on, this quadcopter thing, which to our viewers is basically a drone. And
it has a pre-fitted camera, a thermal imaging camera.
So you can see the outline of the person you're targeting. So a drone comes here, they can see I'm sitting, my form.
Whether you're an adult or you're a child, you can make out.
They can make out and they gender, everything.
Correct.
And this is operated by Israeli soldiers.
Yes, sitting in a remote location. So one of them I've quoted here and I've read it out earlier in press conferences, but it's necessary to read this out. So you say, this is in a TV documentary. The documentary's title is Breaking Ranks Inside Israel's War. In that documentary, one Israeli soldier describes it, what he's doing as under. The drones, in my opinion, are what most dehumanizes the other side. You see everything on a screen. You drop the bomb. It feels like a game. You can sit in some basement of a house, safe, with your helmet off, scratching your balls, half dressed, and kill Palestinians. So
It's like a video game.
Yeah, and so because this technology separates you from your target, for you it's just like pressing a button.
Yeah, it's like a game. But
And
there is an active choice if you're using this quadcopter, if it targets children, and there are documented cases of it targeting children.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's an active choice being made to hit a child. There's no doubt about
absolutely, Absolutely. And it is corroborated by the medical evidence, by the first-hand eyewitness accounts of doctors. Many treating doctors, we've interviewed 3 of them. There are many more whom we've quoted in the report. And I found yesterday on the BBC channel one more doctor speaking, who had gone after these doctors visited and saying pretty much the same thing. The number of cases of children with single shot gun wounds. There is a press agency in Netherlands which has got recently an award for a detailed coverage of 113 children in Palestine who were found with single gunshot wounds to their head and neck.
Which is clear intent, and which is what my next question is. When we understand the word genocide, usually we look at it as scale, that the number has to be huge. This commission argues that it's not just the scale, it's the intent.
Correct.
And when you quote the Israeli politician saying that the intent seems to be that no next generation should be left for us to fight.
Perfect. Exactly. That's exactly what the thinking is. Let us not allow the Palestinian group to continue as a group. So because children constitute the social and biological continuity of any group.
Yes.
So the minute you exterminate children, there is no next group of Palestinians. And the surviving children destroy their livelihoods, their aspirations. Children should be studying in schools for the last 3 years, because 97% of the schools in Gaza are destroyed. For the last 3 years, no formal education. There are no colleges. And a child, instead of actually being in a classroom and gaining knowledge, because there's no internet connection, so you can't even have those long distance learning, the child is looking to survive. The child is polishing shoes, going around scrounging for food here and there. It's a heartrending sight. And the 10-year-old has now become the head of the family because no surviving family member. And the 10-year-old is supposed to look after her or his 3-year-old or 2-year-old sibling. So children are not being allowed to enjoy childhood. And children are so scared to go and play. Earlier there was something to, even in a slum in India, you'll find children being happy, playing, just finding some things to do. The Palestinian children are numbed. The doctors called it mutism. They're so scared to go and play because many children have been killed while playing outside their houses. Many children have been killed doing ordinary things. So children don't know what to do, how they should, they're too scared to move. There are instances of children being abducted, young boys being abducted, taken to prisons, being made to lie on the ground, setting dogs on them. We have described all of that here. Being tortured in prison, of course. So we really don't know the exact statistics of how many such adolescent boys have been abducted. And what Palestinian authorities have documented, whatever they've documented, that there are, let's say, so many, young boys, adolescents in adult prisons. We suspect it could be much higher. So if somebody asks, are you sure of these figures? I can be sure that these are underestimates. There should be much more. Even when we say 20,000 plus children have been killed, probably many more children are under the rubble.
It can only be more, not less.
Many children have died of starvation. We've recorded malnutrition deaths. We suspect figures could be much higher. So even these figures we talk about, 20,000 dead, 44,000 injured, are according to me underestimates. And if they permit us to get into those areas, we could be more sure of some of these figures. Having said this, I should also point out that the judicial system there does not seem to be responding. In one of the paragraphs we say, when writs of habeas corpus were filed, saying the child has gone missing and the Israeli authorities have taken them away and they've not been returned to us, the court there simply throws out the petition. So there doesn't seem to be a functional system which can render justice in this kind of a situation, which is why you need international mechanisms. And I think what the report is trying to tell the entire world community is this: let us make sure these international mechanisms work. We have the Geneva Conventions, we have the Rome Statute, we have the Child Rights Convention. Many of our countries, including India, are parties to this. It is in our interest that these mechanisms work properly. You know, the International Court of Justice has delivered 3 provisional orders, one requiring Israel to vacate the areas forcibly occupied by its settlers. Second, to stop, continuous bombing of Gaza. Third, to ensure humanitarian aid reaches Gaza. Israel is violating each of these orders with complete impunity. And the world community is keeping quiet about it.
So this is one of the most well-documented conflicts, and there is one sense of despondency that people feel through all this. Even with your commission, it'll say what we know because some of it has come out in the media. And there is this feeling that what's the point of this? Because you're going to say that, they've been up to this, they're targeting children, but nothing changes on ground. So how would you respond to the sense of hopelessness where people think that UN is not important? They're saying these things, but what is the difference? How is it changing a child's life on ground?
See, the first indication of things are changing was when South Africa brought proceedings against Israel in the International Court of Justice. People who watched those proceedings were stunned at the level of advocacy, the professional competence with which lawyers argued the cases, and the 3 provisional orders given by the ICJ. They're some of the best, well-written orders, clearly delineating international law principles and pushing, like we say, everything is an incremental step. Now we know that Israel is in violation of those orders. These are documented violations. So, and the world community has woken up.
You think so? You think like there
Clearly,
will be...
why would South Africa file a case against Israel in the International Court of Justice? Because it feels strongly that these are violations that cannot go unpunished. So the invocation of international law mechanisms by countries, this is definitely a precedent, because this is about violations happening in Palestine. You can say, what does South Africa to do with Palestine? But South Africa is interested that these international law principles are not given a go by. So it's very important as a precedent. Then the International Criminal Court, this comes out of the Rome Statute. That statute actually clearly defines the crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes. Those systems have been activated. The International Criminal Court has issued warrants. The work of this commission is important for both these proceedings. South Africa sent a request that this commission should share its evidence with the ICJ, which it has. But to make sure that the ICJ can utilize what this commission has as evidence, the commission has aligned its evidence gathering protocols with that of the ICJ. Likewise, it's also aligned its protocols with that of the International Criminal Court. So any international adjudicated mechanisms can straightaway pick up this evidence for the starting point of conducting their further investigations and then taking the matters to trial.
But the feeling is that it will stop once the US...
No, there's a third element, and this is so important. There are many countries who are treaty parties that they have ratified, let's say the Geneva Conventions. There are 4 Geneva Conventions. There are 3 additional protocols to those conventions. The long and short is, many of these conventions tell the countries who are parties what should be their conduct at the time of hostilities. Here we have an instance of a child holding a white flag. You can't, the child is no more a legitimate target during our hostilities. Israel shoots that child in cold blood while it's still holding a white flag. Ambulance is targeted. It's clearly in violation of the additional protocols of the Geneva Convention. So countries which are parties to these conventions, including child rights conventions, have an obligation in international law to prosecute persons who are found in violation of these international conventions to which the member states are parties. So to give you an example, there are nationals of other countries who are serving on the Israeli Defense Forces. Many of the viewers may not be aware of it. There are over 12,000 US nationals who are serving on the Israeli Defense Forces. Over 6,000 French, over 5,000 Russian, over nearly 4,000 German, over 3,000 Ukrainian, more than 2,000 British nationals. Today, being part of the Israeli Defense Forces. We have in para 356 of our report detailed the brigades, the units of the Israeli forces which were involved in specific incidents. We have linked them to the specific incidents. Now, if, let's say an Australian national was serving and he formed part of that unit. He's gone back to Australia. Australia can, in its domestic jurisdiction, make courts exercise what we call universal jurisdiction. Because Australia is a party to these conventions, an Australian national has been named. They can investigate such person using the evidence we've gathered. They can request us, we can share it with them, and they can take that case to its logical conclusion. So we have now made it possible by actually naming the brigades, units and all of that for countries, individual countries to prosecute. They don't have to wait to go to the ICJ or to the International Criminal Court. They don't have to be afraid that US will do something. They can themselves, it is in their interest that they consider these offenses serious enough for their citizens to be tried and brought to justice. So it is good to know, and this is your viewers should know, some countries have already started that process.
Okay.
So
Which are?
I won't name the countries because again, this is something that has to be kept at a certain level of confidentiality because they are at stages of investigation.
Okay.
And we don't want to jeopardize the fairness of those trials. But it is a fact that some countries have requested. Like for instance, the Hind Rajab Foundation. You know the Hind Rajab incident?
Yes.
Where that young girl was inside the ambulance and asking for help, and still that ambulance was specifically targeted and bombed and she died, awaiting medical help. You know the documentary made on that and how it was released after a delay. Now I think it's showing. The Hind Rajab Foundation has instituted proceedings in several countries based on this principle I'm talking about of universal jurisdiction. So all hope is not lost. For these extensive documentation of all these crimes, I think people are ready to pick up whatever they can from these kind of exercises and pursue proceedings.
Do you
in
think
different courts.
we will see some justice when it comes to even Netanyahu, that they'll be tried for the crimes?
See, we can't lose hope. It's very important for us not to lose hope because across the world, and this is something that we gathered when we made our presentation. By the way, I should tell you that this report we presented to the European Union, where several countries' ambassadors sat around and heard us. Some of them were too moved to even speak. We made our presentation to the Organization of Islamic countries, OIC. Then we made our presentation to the Security Council. The Security Council has its permanent 5 members. Of the permanent 5, Russia and US didn't participate in the proceedings.
Okay.
Then it has 10 invitee countries. So of the 15, 13 attended the interaction. They asked what can be done. Because it is clear that political compulsions, and this is a phrase we heard, is preventing countries from doing what they actually should be doing. So we made 2 requests. One, we said the Security Council has in a resolution number 2803 endorsed the formation of this Board of Peace, which is called the President Donald J. Trump Peace Plan. Now, of course, that plan itself has several shortcomings, which we've pointed out elsewhere. One shortcoming being that it talks only of Gaza and ignores that occupied Palestinian territory includes, West Bank and East Jerusalem. It ignores the fact that historically there was a 1947 UN resolution which was based on a 2-state nation policy. There would be a state of Israel and there would be a state of Palestine. No reference to that. And then no reference to many of the UN mechanisms that are dealing with the issue in Palestine, including our commission. And so it has a very different kind of outlook on the whole thing. And that Board of Peace has on its membership the state of Israel and leaves out Palestine altogether. It says every country which wants to be on it has to pay $1.5 billion. Many countries have pledged that 1.5 but have not actually paid. And that Board of Peace in May this year gave a report to the Security Council claiming that the situation in Gaza is vastly improved and much more humanitarian aid is flowing into Gaza. We have clearly said in this report nothing of that sort is happening. The situation in Gaza is deteriorating and it's very, very precarious today with the entire surviving population at the Rafah border in inhuman conditions. So we asked the Security Council, since you endorsed the formation of this Board of Peace, why didn't you ask them to convene a meeting where we will go and give our report, we'll present our report to the Board of Peace to tell them that it's high time you acted. If you want more humanitarian aid to come into Gaza, this is the time to do it. Because this does not require some order of the International Court of Justice or International Criminal Court or some other court. This requires you to simply act. You are the ones who endorse this and you make sure it actually works. The second thing we said is we must all, as countries of the United Nations, be able to come together to agree on a few basic humanitarian tenets. One being that in the time of hostilities, no child should die of starvation, which is what is happening in Palestine today. Second is, in time of hostilities, no child should die for want of medical help. Can we not agree on this? Why should a child's survival, a child's right to have a full childhood be dependent on geopolitical considerations? Country X is against country Y. And then the children of today are paying for something that has happened to a group 70 years ago. See, Holocaust is something that is terrible. There can be no doubt at all. And that should never have happened. It should not be allowed to happen. But you can't say justice for what has happened during the World War II is now creating a man-made disaster where again there's no prospect of justice the way it is all playing out now. So children should be kept outside of all of this. We should say we draw the line here.
But are you hopeful that countries will actually be able to pressure Israel to do this?
So when we made a presentation to the European Union and the OIC countries, some of those ambassadors did tell us that the mood on the ground has changed.
There's a feeling?
Yeah, because, the first indication of that were the flotilla activists. These are people from different nationalities across the world who came together out of frustration saying our countries, for political reasons, are unable to, take a stand. But we are not going to wait for them to act. We are going to act. As individuals in different countries, we think aid should reach Gaza. We cannot watch the children in Palestine die like this. And they took the very bold and brave step of going there. Of course, they were stopped. But if the first lot had stopped and nothing had happened, I would agree with you. It's all very frustrating. The second lot went. Then a third lot has gone. And each time, this has not deterred them. The third lot, of course, were dealt with very brutally by Israel. But something in the ground tells us that people don't want to take it lying down. People want to speak up. People want to stand up to be counted. See, and I said this also to the Security Council. The present generation of children will never forgive us if, the entire country, entire world is just watched and did nothing while the children in Palestine died. So this much we owe to the present generation of children, not to speak of the future generation of children.
So two quick questions, last two questions. One is, this thing that you spoke about, that we should not lose hope. You've spent the last 1 year at least meeting all these people who worked in human rights commissions, long careers understanding international law. When in your conversations with them, did they feel that this was unprecedented from what they have seen in their careers? And a subset to this question is that this thing about hope, I feel like one thing that you said is very important, that there should be documentation at least. There should be someone doing something. And incremental change is actually valuable, even though right now we feel nothing's happening. Israel's not been able to, the world has not come to pressure Israel in a way that it stops. So just as a professional who's done this for the last 1 year, what kept you going and gave you hope that, okay, I have to keep doing this, and your colleagues also? What drives
one is to see the complete dedication of people working on the ground. you look at the Palestinian groups, you look at the groups in Israel. I should share with all of you, the Israel government may not be cooperating. The Israel army may not be cooperating. But there are Israeli civil society organizations who are cooperating, who are sharing their stories, who feel very strongly about all of this. And, completely oppose whatever the government of Israel is doing. So there are so many right-thinking groups, and beyond risking their own lives, look at your own tribe. So many journalists getting killed.
Yeah.
Why are they still going back there? Why are there so many photographers? And look at the children in Palestine. Look at the hope they have. I must read out this. I read out this earlier also. But, this is a child. He's a 13-and-a-half-year-old Palestinian boy. And he has actually, in front of his eyes, watched his mother and 2 sisters die in an airstrike. And he should feel very deeply cynical about life, right? He should not have any hope. But this is what he says. Before my mother was killed, and he's spoken this to our investigator and one of the commissioners. So this is a recorded testimony. He says, before my mother was killed, she told me, I need you to be a good person in the society, like a doctor or engineer, and do good for others. And this child says, despite everything that had happened to my family, I will do anything that is good for the society. So, this child is reminding each of us that don't let the humanity, little bit of the humanity in you get killed. And it's so important for us to be reminded, because it is easy to become cynical. And every time we read a report like this and we simply shrug our shoulders, we've killed something within each of us. We should not allow this to become routine. The minute we routinize this scale of violence, then there is something that we are failing to do as human beings. So this also reminds us that we should not lose that hope. We should not lose that humanity.
And we have to carry on.
We have to, because
so many people are.
And at the end of World War II, so many people came together. Hansa Mehta's huge contribution to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, when they used the word human instead of person. So I'm just saying, we have a history of engaging with the whole, we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but this is the real testing time for that. How do we identify, ourselves with the anguish of the Palestinian children? And children anywhere in the world. It could be Israeli children as well. And here I want to make this very clear. This commission is looking at human rights violations not just in the occupied Palestinian territory, but in Israel as well. So we brought out a report of the violence that occurred on 7th October 2023. We are concerned about all victims. We are concerned that justice should be done to all victims. The victims could be Israeli, Palestinian, or any other nationality. But this commission is very keen that, its work should not be limited, and that the world community should not see this as concerning somebody else, some other nation, some other, area, and as if it doesn't concern any of us. It is on our own interest that these international legal principles are upheld, enforced, acted upon, and that these international mechanisms are allowed to work.
And what about your colleagues? My question on, all the people that you've met who've engaged with human rights, is this unprecedented in...
Yeah, in a sense that the targeting of children, many of them say on this scale,
they've not seen.
And the depravity of the behavior of Israeli defense forces. So, and we should not allow this to go unnoticed, unpunished.
What should India be doing, the Indian government? So
not just the Indian government, because let's not single out any one government, but every government which is supplying arms to Israel should stop supply of those arms. Because if those arms are going to be used for committing atrocities like this, a country supplying arms would be easily, liable to answer the charge of abetting, aiding the commission of these crimes. And we should also ask ourselves, can we allow this violation of humanitarian law to take place in front of our eyes? Because human rights law requires adjudication, it requires fixation of liability. But violation of humanitarian law is the now and the present and the immediate. And if we have to act now, I think the entire world community should put pressure on Israel to permit humanitarian aid to enter Palestine and Gaza, so that
And the evacuation.
We
I think
preserve
that's-
whatever remains of the childhood of those children. And we're talking of food. Children are dying of malnutrition and starvation. Orphanages have been attacked. So we're looking at shelter, we're looking at food, we're looking at education, we're looking at health. So these cannot, wait. So the countries have to act now, and no country should be found wanting in responding to this crisis.
I really hope so. I really hope this opens up people, and all of us have become numb to this because we've seen so much of news on it. I hope it's very important to fight that numbness, and
Yes.
this report does that well. So thank you so much for taking out the time to talk to us, and thank you for the hope.
Yes, we should not let that die. Yeah. Thank you.
If you've watched till here and you're still with me, I hope this conversation gave you something to think about. When the world feels overwhelming, it's easy to believe that nothing is changing. But conversations like these are also a reminder that there are people who continue to stand up for what's right. It's not always easy to do that, and it's not always profitable, but people are still doing it. Justice Muralidhar said something in this interview that really stayed with me. If a Palestinian child can still hold on to hope, the rest of us certainly have no business giving up hope. At News Laundry, we try to do a small bit by continuing to ask difficult questions, report carefully, and create conversations that help us understand the world a little better. We can do this because thousands of our viewers choose to back us. If you'd like us to keep doing this work, please scan the QR code flashing on your screen right now. Do consider subscribing to News Laundry. It'll allow you access to our premium paywalled interviews, our podcasts, and also all our paywalled reports. A little bit can go a far way.